welcome to my channel, Willa Candy's channel. And on this channel, if you're new here, welcome first of all. And on this channel, I eat food. I also will read my Bible like I have right now. And I will also share stories of my own, and I'll also share stories that I probably have heard of, off of TikTok and, other places like that. But how's everyone doing? I hope you all are doing great on this beautiful Saturday, July the 4th. Happy 4th of July to anyone out there. I hope you all are driving safely out there, loving one another, treating everyone with respect. What I like about the 4th of July, I like to look at the fireworks, but I will also never forget about the Lord either. But, fireworks be looking beautiful and everything. Have any of you popped at any out there at your house or anywhere else or whatever? Are you all swimming in a nice, cool pool outside anywhere? Drinking a slushy, eating a glizzy, eating a cheeseburger, anything like that? I hope you all are just being safe and just having a great time with your family or whoever. But it's really nice to meet you all, and today I'll just be reading the Holy Scripture, and I will also be sharing a story called Elb and Ivy. It's going to be about an interracial relationship. KCL Date 73. Truly God is good to Israel, even to such as are of a clean heart. But as for me, my feet were almost gone. My steps had well nigh slipped. Forgive me. For I was envious at the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. For there are no bands in their death, but their strength is firm. They are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men. Therefore pride compasseth them about as a chain. Violence covereth them as a garment. Their eyes stand out with fatness. They have more than heart could wish. They are corrupt and speak wickedly concerning oppression. They speak loathfully. They set their mouth against the heavens, and their tongue walketh through the earth. Therefore his people return hither, and waters of a full cup are wrung out to them. And they say, how doth God know? And is there knowledge in the Most High? Behold, these are the ungodly who prosper in the world, they increase in riches. Verily, I have cleansed my heart in vain and washed my hands in innocency. For all the day long have I been plagued and chastened every morning. If I say I will speak thus, behold, I should offend against the generation of thy children. When I thought to know this, it was too painful for me. Until I went into the sanctuary of God, then understood I therein. Surely that you didst set them in slippery places, that you castedst them down into destruction. How are they brought into desolation as in a moment? They are utterly consumed with terrors. As a dream when one awaketh, so, O Lord, when that you awakest, that you shall despise their image. Thus my heart was grieved, and I was pricked in my reins. So foolish was I and ignorant. I was as a beast before thee. Nevertheless, I am continually with thee. That you haste holding me by my right hand. That you shalt guide me with thy counsel, and afterward receive me to glory. Whom have I in heaven but thee? And there is none upon earth that I desire beside thee. My flesh and my heart faileth, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. For lo, they that are far from thee shall perish. That you haste destroy all them that go a-whoring from thee. But it is good for me to draw near to God. I have put my trust in the Lord God, that I may declare all thy works. That's all. Well, let me read one more chapter. PCL Date 74. O God, why haste that you cast us off forever? Why doth thine anger smoke against the sheep of thy pasture? Remember thy congregation, which that you haste purchased of old, the rod of thine inheritance, which that you haste redeemed this Mount Zion, wherein that you haste dwelt. Lift up thy feet unto the perpetual desolations, even all that the enemy hath done wickedly in the sanctuary. Thine enemies roar in the midst of thy congregations. They set up their ensigns for signs. A man was famous, according as he had lifted up axes upon the thick trees. And now they break down the carved work thereof at once with axes and hammers. They have cast fire into thy sanctuary. They have defiled by casting down the dwelling place of thy namesakes to the ground. They said in their hearts, let us destroy them together. They have burned up all the synagogues of God in the land. We see not our signs. There is no more any prophet, neither is there among us any that knoweth how long. O God, how long? Thought I saw a mosquito. O God, how long shall the adversary reproach? Shall the enemy blaspheme thy namesake forever? Why withdrawest you thy hand, even thy right hand? Pluck it out of thy bosom. For God is my King of old, working salvation in the midst of the earth. You didst divide the sea by thy strength. You breakest the heads of the dragons in the waters. You breakest the heads of Leviathan in pieces, and gavest him to be meat to the people inhabiting the wilderness. You didst cleave the fountain in the flood. You driedest up mighty waters. The day is thine, the night also is thine. You haste prepare the light in the sun. You haste set all the borders of the earth. You haste made summer and winter. Remember this, that the enemy hath reproach, O Lord, and that the foolish people have blasphemed thy namesake. Oh, deliver not the soul of thy turtle dove, and unto the multitude of the wicked. Forget not the congregation of thy poor forever. Have respect unto the covenant, for the dark places of the earth are full of the habitations of cruelty. Oh, let not the oppressed return ashamed. Let the poor and needy praise thy namesake. Arise, O God, plead thy own cause. Remember how the foolish man reproacheth thee daily. Forget not the voice of thine enemies. The tumult of those that rise up against thee increaseth continually. Thank you, Lord, for the word. All right, let me close the book before I start the story. Let me fix this. And this story is called Ebb and Ive. I came up with it like last year or the year before last. All I know is that I got this notebook for my birthday. One of my sisters gave it to me, and it was a story that I had came up with, I think about like a year ago, and it's called Ebb and Ive. It takes place in somewhere in North Carolina, and this is like the late 90s, and my main character is Kelsey Dubright. She has a brother named Casey Dubright, and she also has a sister named Josie Dubright, and Josie goes with a guy named Michael Lee Tate. That's Josie's boyfriend. And Mackenzie Dubright is Michael and Josie's daughter. So Kelsey, Casey, and Josie, they are all brothers and sisters. And then Casey had a lot of friends, but he had like this main friend named Joaquin Barnes, who he calls Willie for short. Once he brought Willie around his house, Willie laid eyes on Kelsey and fell in love. And it was really Kelsey that had fell in love first. And when Willie was looking back at her, he liked her too. And once, it was one day when Casey had arrived at home and it was not when he had arrived home. Correction, I had to memorize back. Casey had visited his friend Willie. He went over Willie's house. Willie opened up the door for him. And, he ended up seeing when Willie had let him in his house. He ended up letting Willie ended up letting him in his house. He ended up looking like towards the back, like where Willie's bedroom is at. Tell me why he see his little sister coming out of Willie's bedroom. He was angry. He was pissed. But he didn't show his anger right then and right there to his friend Willie, a.k.a. Joaquin. Joaquin, is still like casually talking to him like, oh yeah, your sister Kelsey was here. She came by. Like he was showing like, yeah, we're a couple. Hopefully you don't have an issue with it. But Casey, Yeah, Casey, I had to look back on the journal. Casey did had an issue with Kelsey and Joaquin dating. And it's because, he started to have a bad impression. I don't exactly know what to call it. It's like, I guess he just felt uncomfortable with his little sister. He was expecting her to go with someone else. He did not expect for her to go with, somebody like Joaquin. It's not that Joaquin is a bad person, but what Joaquin looked at it as, like, oh, so you don't want your sister to go with, a black dude. Because Joaquin was a black guy, was a black boy that was, he was one of Casey's friends. And, Casey is Kelsey's brother. And yeah, Casey didn't exactly say that, but he just did not expect for his sister to, start going with Joaquin. So he basically had came out and said, yeah, I got an issue with you talking to my sister. And Willie was like, why? Because I'm black and stuff like that. And then Casey said, it ain't got nothing it ain't got nothing to do with your skin color. I'm just funny about my sister having a boyfriend, like flat out. And Casey is protective over his sister Kelsey. Kelsey is the youngest, Josie is the oldest, and Casey is in the middle, but he's still older than Kelsey, him and Josie both. And yeah, they are protective over Kelsey, especially Casey. 'Cause they have always been close since they were small. But Kelsey is growing up. She turned into a young woman, and she feels like Casey need to stay out of her business. And when she found out that Casey had confronted her boyfriend about their relationship, like, you stay out of Willie's face. We are in love. We are a couple. Ain't nothing you could do about it. You're just going to have to sit back and have an issue about it because we ain't breaking up and da-da-da-da. Her and her brother stayed into it. And Josie, she would just get in the middle like, oh my God, will you two just please shut up? Like, quit fussing and fighting all the time. And, I'm just looking at the extra characters. Yeah. But, yeah, he had a problem with, with their relationship. And it was back in school. This was around when they were still in high school. Joaquin ended up, aka Willie, I'm gonna just call him Willie. Willie ended up confronting Casey. Confronting Casey around the few other boys who they usually hang out with, because they started to keep their distance from one another. They kind of like started to bump heads. And Willie had confronted him like, I heard you wanted to fight me. I heard you, had an issue with me, going with your sister. And you're like, if you want to fight me, we can handle this right now in the boys' restroom. That's what Willie said. Well, like, no, Casey was like, I don't want to fight you. I never said that I wanted to fight you. Willie said, well, I heard different. I heard a different story. Like, do you want to settle this out? If you love your sister that much, you want to settle this out in the boys' restroom. And his friends were like boosting it up. Like how folks be adding more flames to the fire, or not flames, more fuel to the fire, I guess that's what you call it, trying to boost Casey up into, agreeing to fight Willie. And, and Willie was like, come on. Like, he was, like, actually guiding Casey to the bathroom, telling him to follow him to the bathroom. And when they got into the bathroom, it was like freaking, like Casey got into a ring with Mike Tyson or somebody, because once he got in that bathroom with Willie, it was on. But Casey wasn't the type who just easily gave up. He gave Willie all he got, but he just couldn't stand a chance with Willie, because Willie knew how to, bob, weave, swing from his left and right. But, he had, like, a really good right hook that he always did, like, one-hitter quitter. Willie, I wouldn't exactly say he was a boxer, but he did, like, was trained up, like, to learn how to defend himself and fight against people who bothered him. His uncle taught him and his family. His uncle taught him and his family. He also got taught by older cousins and all. He got taught how to fight. So when him and Casey fought, it was a lot of rumbling and stuff, and you could hear like something heavy hitting against the doors of the bathroom stalls. And then it was like a custodian or somebody who worked in the school had ended up getting in there, breaking the fight up, and the two boys left out of the bathroom. Willie, he was just covered in sweat, but he didn't have no black eye, no busted lip, no nothing. But he did have a little blood on his knuckles. And as for Casey, Casey had a swollen lip. He had a black eye, a busted nose, and everything. but he had fought him, for the sake of his sister. But the two friends end up making up. Casey had ended up just, accepting that his sister is in a relationship, with Willie. He started to accept that, and he also realized that he was in the wrong, of thinking such things about his friend Willie, who he have been knowing for years. Like, he felt like he was wrong for doing that, and he apologized to Willie for it, and Willie forgave him. And the two of them just continued to remain friends all the way up to their 20s, when they became adults. And around this time, Casey had, their first child by Willie. They had their first child. They is officially still a couple in a relationship, and she's pregnant again by Willie. They have a baby together already, and she's pregnant by Willie. And she also, she already had met Willie's family and everything. Willie got family. He has a sister named Effie, and he has aunts named Phyllis Barnes and Monica Marie Barnes, and his mother Aretha Barnes. And he also has a grandmother named Eunice Barnes. They love Casey. They treat Casey with respect. The aunts, like Phyllis and Monica, they be saying some little, like, sly, shady things towards her. But they also be, call themselves, they don't be meaning no harm. But like how someone always joking and stuff, but sometimes them jokes can be turned out like offensive or just out of the line type of jokes. That's the type of aunts that they were towards Kelsey. And sometimes he'll be deep down hurting Kelsey's feelings, but Willie will be by her side like, come on, Kelsey, lighten up. He'll tell her that. But Kelsey's pregnant now. She's going to always stay in her feelings, especially if you say something wrong towards her. And also, Willie had some childhood friends. He had some childhood friends, and one of his main childhood friends, it was a girl who always had a crush on him. And Willie knew this, but he never took it far as to getting in a relationship with her. He just kept it platonic between her. Platonic, strictly platonic. And her name was Keisha Spate. She always had a little crush on Willie. And it was one day when there was like a barbecue going on at Willie's mama's house, Aretha's house. She had a barbecue going on. Everybody, not only the family, but Willie, everybody, but not only the family, but some folks who Willie had grew up with was at the party. Keisha, right along with other folks, like a guy named Antoine. It was a lot of other folks that arrived at this barbecue. And Kelsey and Willie was still at home. Kelsey was gathering up, stuff like for the baby, putting the baby inside of the car seat and stuff like that. And Willie was in the room, getting dressed himself. And Kelsey also had wanted to bring something to the barbecue. Like, she had made some Kool-Aid and she had made some macaroni salad. But she was telling Willie, like, while Willie was in the bedroom, she was like, Willie, you think that your sisters and them, you think your sister and your family and them, is going to like my Kool-Aid? And the main person really that has an issue with Kelsey, like, even though the aunts be saying some slick stuff towards her, the main person who has issues with her and Willie's family is Effie, Joaquin's sister. She feels like Kelsey has drawn a wedge between her and her brother Willie. I feel like Kelsey is like trying to take her brother away from her. Because Effie loves her brother. They grew up close, just like Kelsey with Casey. That's something that Effie has something. That's something that Effie has in common with Kelsey. She just don't know that. They both love their siblings. Casey is crazy about Kelsey, and Effie is crazy about her only brother, Joaquin, Willie. And she does not approve of their relationship. Like, she felt like that he should have been with another girl. And Kelsey, just like Willie, felt some type of way towards, Casey's remarks. Waiting for the car to pass by. Just like Casey, sorry for the background noise, just like Casey felt some type of way Willie felt some type of way towards Casey remarks about his and Kelsey's relationship. Kelsey felt some type of way about Effie's, remarks, about, hers and Willie's relationship, Kelsey feels like Effie don't like her because, she's a white woman. She doesn't expect for a woman like her to talk to her brother Willie. Feels like that she don't deserve Willie and stuff like that. That's what Kelsey feels like. That Effie thinks that she doesn't deserve her brother. And Effie does think that. Like, he felt like she could have found something better. But Kelsey is a woman who Willie loves. And what's really going to disappoint Effie, what's really going to disappoint Willie is when what he finds out about what his sister have been saying about his and Kelsey's child. Her own nephew, the baby that they had together. But at the barbecue, when they had a ride, Kelsey, she came up with her macaroni salad and her pitcher of Kool-Aid, and Willie was carrying the baby, and one of his aunties, it was his aunt, Monica. She was like, "Oh, give the baby here. Let me see that cute baby." She wanted to hold the baby, kissing on his cheeks and stuff. Willie handed her the baby, and the other aunt, named Phyllis, she was like, "So what you got there, Kelsey? What you brought to the barbecue?" And then she was like, "Oh, this is some macaroni salad that I decided to make." She said, "This is my mama's recipe. It's something that her mama had made." That's Kelsey's grandmother. Kelsey's grandmother is dead. Has passed away around when Kelsey was a little girl. Kelsey, she has family, but not as much family as Willie. So, she's hoping to be welcomed by his family. And Phyllis was like, "Oh, that looks nice. I'll give it a try." In her mind, she would think I don't know if I want to eat any macaroni salad. It's already hot outside. I don't think so. But Eunice was like, "That don't look too bad. I'm gonna have a try." Eunice is Willie's grandmother. Eunice, the sweetest old woman that you could ever run across. But Effie was like, "Who in the world brings macaroni salad to barbecues?" She wanted something mean to say towards Kelsey. And Kelsey was like, "Hey Effie, it's nice to see you." And Effie was like, "Hey," and just walked it off and talked it to everybody else like, "Hey girl, how you doing?" But when she seen Kelsey, she was like, "Hey," like that. She obviously showing that she do not like Kelsey. And and that hurted Kelsey's feelings, but she didn't say nothing about it. And then when it was time to sit around the table, Effie was like, "Hey, big brother, why don't you come over here and sit by me?" And Willie was like, "Well, I was gonna, sit by, Kelsey and my son." And then she was like, "You could bring my little nephew over here and we both would sit together." She said that, and then Kelsey was like, "Oh yeah, Willie, why don't you go over there and sit with Effie?" She agreed, because she could tell that Effie don't like her, and she wants to get along with Effie. And then when they were sitting around eating the food, they were all saying about how great the food tasted all around the table. Kelsey was saying how great it tasted, but every time when Kelsey opened her mouth and said something, Effie would just roll her eyes like, ugh, I wish she could just shut up. Effie, would thinking that. But when Willie start talking, or anybody else in her family will start talking, she'll be like, be engaged listening to them. She obviously showing that she cannot stand Kelsey. And Kelsey was sweet towards her. Sweet, try to give in. But when it was time to taste Kelsey's food, Kelsey's Kool-Aid, everybody had different, it was mixed opinions about her Kool-Aid and macaroni salad that she brought to the barbecue. Effie was the most brutal one out of everybody at the table. When she tasted that macaroni salad, she was like, "Oh my God." Like she spitted it out on her plate in front of everybody. And then Willie was like, that wasn't even necessary. So it is necessary. That tastes like some freaking biohazard stuff. Some garbage truck juice mixed with, what the H is this? That's what Effie has said. And Aretha said, "Be respectful, Effie." They were telling her that. And Eunice said, "You could have just said nicely that you didn't like it." And Eunice tasted it. She was like, "You know what, baby, that's not bad. It's not bad. Just need a little salt and pepper, but it's not bad." Eunice tasted, the grandmother, Willie's grandmother, she tasted it, Kelsey's macaroni salad. That really hurted Kelsey's feelings, the way Effie reacted it, though. But she didn't say nothing. She was like, "Well, maybe I'll just make it better next time." And then Effie said, yeah, why won't you make better Kool-Aid too? Because everybody knows that it ain't no measurements when it comes down to putting sugar in Kool-Aid. Now, am I right or am I wrong? And everybody like, yeah, you gotta make that Kool-Aid sweet. And Kelsey like, well, Willie said it ain't had to put a lot of, sugar in it. He said because his grandmama got diabetes. Eunice has diabetes too. By that and Effie was like, who in the world wants to drink watered down Kool-Aid at a barbecue? A barbecue is all about unhealthiness. Okay, you see all this food on the table? Do you see any diet food? No, you don't. Next time, bring better Kool-Aid. And if you can't do that, then buy some freaking canned sodas at the store. Buy some soda pops at the store. They'll be even more better. Coca-Cola or Pepsi, with a hot Coca-Cola or Pepsi would have been way better than that mess that you brought. And then what she did to embarrass Kelsey even more, she had lifted up the bowl of macaroni salad. She had lifted up the bowl of macaroni salad because it was a clear bowl, so you could see all the macaroni salad with the spices and stuff in it. She lifted it up, and it was a dead fly sitting right at the bottom, mixed inside the macaroni salad. That's what really embarrassed Kelsey. And Kelsey just got up. She was like, I gotta go to the bathroom. She was embarrassed. And Effie was like, oh, heck no. Oh, heck no. Willie, make sure that your little girlfriend don't bring no food to the barbecue. She's trying to poison everybody. And Willie says she is not trying to poison anybody. It was a mistake. A fly must have got into it last night. That's why I told Kelsey to shut the window. And then she was like, your girlfriend just can't cook. She can't cook. She don't know how to make Kool-Aid. Like, what? Where in the world did you met her at? Effie was just plain out rude. And in the house, I think a mosquito bit. In the house, Kelsey got in the bathroom and she bawled. Like, she just cried in the bathroom. And Willie had went back there to check on her. He knew that she was probably somewhere crying, because she have already told Willie that she thinks that his sister does not like her. And Willie was like, oh, you just overreacted. But he started to see what Kelsey is talking about. And he went to go check on Kelsey. Kelsey was in the bathroom, wiping the tears from her eyes, looking in the mirror, and she was also rubbing her belly. And Willie had hit his hand against the door, like, Kelsey, you all right in there? And Kelsey was like, yes, I'm just, using the bathroom. And Willie was like, you sure? Open up the door. And, she had cracked the door open. He walked in there, and, he held her face like, you okay? And then she was like, I'm fine. I'm just ready to go. My belly is hurting. And he ended up coming outside. He ended up letting his whole family know, like, I would love to stay longer, but me and Kelsey got to go. And Effie said, why you got to leave so early? Y'all not too long had got here. I bet it was her. She talked you into leaving early. And Will like, no, she didn't talk me into leaving early. Plus, she's in pain. She's having contractions, and we got to get home, in case she goes into labor or something like that. And Effie was like, ugh. Like, she was mad, and everybody was like, well, it was good to see you. But before Willie had left, what had turned it Kelsey's tears into pure anger is when she had left out the bathroom, stepped it outside, and seen Willie chit-chatting with a other beautiful woman. And this other beautiful woman was Keisha Spate, someone who he had grew up with. And Effie had sought that up. Effie was like, oh, Keisha, look at my brother over here, Willie. I know you haven't seen him in a long time. And Keisha was like, Willie, oh my God, I haven't seen you in ages, boy. How you been? And Will, I haven't seen you in a while, girl. You looking good. Keisha, she had a nice dress on. She was looking beautiful, hair done, nails done, wearing jewelry and everything. She was hugging all up on Willie, rubbing his back. Kelsey did not take that too kindly. She already was feeling insecure as she was carrying a pregnant belly, and she felt like, just like how Effie thought about her, like she didn't deserve anybody like Willie. She seen Willie hugging on Keisha and instantly became angry. And Keisha was like, you remember back in the days when we all used to play together? Like, it was just all his friends, everyone was gathered up around him, and Kelsey was standing to herself on the porch. And Eunice saw this. Eunice, Willie's grandmother, and she walked it over with her cane. She was like, hey baby, I had is some more cake left, would you like some cake? And Kelsey kind of had some tears in her eyes, but she made sure the tears didn't fall. She was like, yes, I would love some cake. I would love some cake, Mrs. Barnes. And she sat with Willie's grandmother, and Willie's grandmother brought smiles back on her face because Willie's grandmother started telling her tales about her husband. Eunice's husband had passed away like, she was telling about her first husband because she had been married like 3 times, and her first husband, he died, at an early age of 49. And that was like years ago because Eunice is old. She's like in her 70s. But she could talk well. She could move around well. And she definitely put her feet, elbows, and everything into the cooking that she be doing. And she makes magnificent, mouth-watering, moist cakes and pies and stuff. And, as Kelsey was just eating her strawberry cake, she was just listening to, Eunice tell the stories. And it was just bringing joy into her heart and putting a smile on her face. She enjoyed talking to Willie's grandmother, Eunice, because Eunice was like the glue of the family. She made sure to try to bring things up together so it won't be no tension or no fighting or anything like that. And Aretha kind of got that from her mother, too. No fighting, no confusion, no none of that. And, when it was time for them to arrive back home, Kelsey was like saying, like, the girl that you was talking to, is she an old friend of you? And Will was like, yeah, she's an old friend of me. She's an old friend of mine. And he was like, yeah, she's an old friend of mine. That was just Keisha. We all grew up together, like brothers and sisters. She was like, oh, well, she's pretty. And Willie like, yeah, she was looking nice. And that's when Kelsey out of nowhere had asked her, like, do you still like her? Why did she ask that? Willie was like, what kind of question is that? What you mean, do I still like her? Yeah, I like her as a friend. I hope you ain't saying, like, me liking her in that kind of way, because I'm in a relationship with you. Why would I be looking at her when I'm with you? And then she was like, yeah, you're right. Why would you be looking at her when you're with me? And then she said, well, maybe what your sister was saying was just nonsense. And then Willie was like, and whatever Effie was saying, just don't pay attention to what she say. Effie will always be Effie. You just have to ignore her. And then Kelsey was like, I don't know what I have to do to get your sister to like me. And Willie said, don't just focus on trying to get her to not like you. If she don't like you, then so be it. It's not going to mess up our relationship. If she don't like you, then so what? But boy, when Kelsey and Willie had left for the barbecue, Effie was just saying all kinds of things about the baby that Kelsey had by her brother, Willie. She didn't believe that it was Willie's baby because the baby, of course, was biracial. And the baby didn't have Willie's skin tone. Willie was dark skinned. Kelsey was, white. White with light sandy brown hair, like light brown hair, near blonde. But like light brown hair, pretty long brown hair. And he got like a lighter complexion. Fluffy brown hair like his mother. Brown hair like his mother. And he had his mother's eyes and everything. But he had Willie's features, Willie's face features. But Effie was thinking in her mind like, that ain't my brother's baby. She had that baby by somebody else. Ain't no way that's my brother's baby. And I'm not about to accept that baby as my nephew. That's what she had said. She ended up telling Phyllis and Monica that. And they're like, girl, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. You better not let Willie hear you say that. She's like, no, I do not believe that's my brother's baby. I would tell him that. She would not dare tell Willie that because she know Willie would cuss her clean out and not want to talk to her. And he would definitely not want to trust his nephew around her because why would you say that about a little baby? So, yeah, Kelsey just felt more insecure. The closer she was, getting into labor, with giving birth to the baby, she felt more insecure. And then when her and Willie went out to the grocery store, guess who he ran across again? I thought I saw something. Guess who he ran across again? It was Keisha with some other girls. And it's like when he started to talk to Keisha again, it's like he would start chatting it up, and it was like he was in school again. He's like, "Hey girl, it's nice to see you." She's like, "Nice to see you too, Willie. You looking good." And what I never brought up too is that Keisha wouldn't hardly say anything to Kelsey, and it all has to do with what Effie been telling her. Willie would be like, "Oh yeah, this is my girlfriend, Kelsey. We got a baby together." And she'll like, "Oh Kelsey, nice to meet you." So Willie, like she'll do that. Keisha being funny, and it all has to do with what Effie said. When someone is talking bad about you, if someone is talking bad about you to another person, that other person is definitely it. It all depends on what kind of person the person is. They gonna feed into it. They the type of feeding and stuff. 9 times out of 10, they gonna feed into it and talk about you. And that's what Keisha had did when she started talking to Willie's sister Effie. Effie just had hate towards Kelsey. And that definitely hurted Kelsey. She seen how Keisha was all up in Willie's face, like, "Oh Willie," like talking to him. And Willie, what he kind of did that was a little messed up, he didn't realize what he did. The baby was sitting in the car kind of crying. He started to cry. The pacifier fell out his mouth. Willie passed all the grocery bags to pregnant Kelsey. Kelsey was pregnant. He passed the bags to her like, "Hey, can you take this to the car right fast?" "So, girl, how you been doing?" Like, he didn't thought about it. He didn't take the grocery bags to the car himself. He passed it to his pregnant girlfriend, told her to carry them in the car. And Kelsey was like, okay. But it hurted her, and she just sat in the car and looked it through the window and was just watching Willie and Keisha just chatting it up. And it was going on 45 minutes. 45 minutes later, Willie comes back to the car. And he was like, "Oh, you already got the groceries in the car?" I thought I had already took it. He was so deep into conversation that he forgot that he handed the grocery bags to Kelsey. Kelsey wasn't saying a word. She was just looking out the window. And then he was like, "You all right?" And she said, I just want to make it home, Willie." And then he was like, "All right." He said, "I'll go ahead and drive." He said, "You sure you're all right?" And then she said, "No, I'm not all right. Like, what is going on with you? Like, is you messing around with her?" Soon as she said that, and Willie was like, "For the last time, ain't nothing going on between me and Keisha. Like, why is you so freaking insecure and stuff like that? Like, what's your problem? Why would you say something like that to me? How many times did I have to tell you that I'm not looking at no other woman and I would not want to be with no other woman?" And she said, "It doesn't look like it to me. You passed me the bags. I'm sitting here carrying our child, and you passing me the bags so deep into conversation. You passed me the bag so deep into conversation and not even caring about me carrying your child right now." And Willie was like, "You sounding crazy right now. You sounding real crazy, and you thinking about what my sister is saying about you. I told you, don't worry about what Effie is saying about you." She said, "It is not about Effie. This is about you playing in my face. You playing me cheap. You treating me wrong." She felt like that Willie was treating her wrong. So they argued all the way back home. The baby was sitting in the back seat just crying and screaming. And Willie couldn't hardly focus while driving like that, because the baby was crying. And, he was a great father. He loved his son, but he did not like when his son screamed and cried. He was like, "Kelsey, I might have to pull this car over because he's screaming and crying way too much." And Kelsey was like, "He's a baby. Baby scream and cry. Let him scream and cry. Don't try to change the subject. This is about you flirting with another woman in front of my face." And Willie said, "For the last time, I was not flirting with her, and I am going to pull this car over, and you is going to get him quiet." And when he pulled the car over, Kelsey decided to just sit in the back seat. She did not want to go back up to the front seat with Willie. She was like, "Just go ahead and drive, Willie. I'm going to sit back here with my baby." And when they got back home, it was just complete silence. And, Willie slept to himself. Kelsey did not, want to sleep, by him. She slept elsewhere in the house. They had this extra bedroom in her house. Where they had the storage boxes and stuff in, but Kelsey just made a pallet on the floor. She's pregnant, and decided to make a pallet on the floor and with the baby down there. And but it was like a really high pallet. Like she had blankets on top of blankets and pillows on top of pillows to make like a soft spot for her to lay in. And Willie was not, agreeing with that. He was like, "You do not have to lay on no floor. We got a bed in the bedroom." And she was like, "I do not want to lay in that bed with you. You can lay by yourself. Or why don't you call up Keisha and tell her to lay beside you?" And Willie was like, "You was being ridiculous. You was being ridiculous. But you know what? I ain't about to argue with you because I got work in the morning." And next morning, Kelsey was still angry, but she was nice enough to cook him breakfast. And while she was frying up the eggs, Willie was coming up behind her, tried to give her a kiss on the cheek, like, "All right, I'm about to go to work." She turned her face off, and she was like, "All right." And then Willie like, "All right, it's gonna be like that," and he left out the door. But he ended up coming back home, and offering to do, Kelsey's feet and everything and run her a bubble bath. Kelsey really liked that. It buttered her up. Like, he wanted it to get back romantic with her. So they started to get close. And it was around one day when they were starting to get close and everything. The devil would try to step into their relationship and steal their joy. And what I mean by that is because one day Kelsey had to go somewhere, and she had dropped the baby off, with Willie's grandmother and Willie's mother, Eunice and Aretha, and she trusted her baby son around her. But Effie ended up visiting her mother and grandmother, and when she seen that baby, she was like, "What is he doing here?" And they were like, "Oh, we gotta look out for him. Kelsey dropped him off." And then she said, "Oh, she been here?" And they were like, "Yeah." And then she said, "Well, you know what I think? I don't think that baby is my brother's." And then Aretha was like, "Nah, that's nonsense. That is my son's baby. I know it is. He got his face features and everything." And she was like, "I am not accepting that baby as my nephew." And while she was saying all of that, ranting and going on, Kelsey was standing on the other side of the door, because Kelsey had came up. She had came back from where she had to go to. And she was coming back up, with her sister Josie. Josie was driving because Josie had to take her somewhere. And she was coming up, and when she heard what Effie was saying, she was like, and she broke down. And she had tears coming out her eyes, and she walking in, and she'll like, "I'll just take my baby to go. I'll take my cause she was calling the baby half breed, all them offensive names like that. And Kelsey walked in and was like, "Well, I'll just take my baby to go." She's like, "You all have a great day." And Aretha tried to stop her, like, Kelsey, she did not mean any of that. But Kelsey left right on with her sister, and she was in tears. She was hurt. And she told Willie everything. She went back to Willie and told Willie. She was in tears. And she told Willie everything what his sister had said. And she also wanted it to temporarily split up from Willie. She's like, "This is not working out. It's obviously your family can't stand me. Your sister hates me." She was like, "I do not want to stay in a family where, your sister hates me and everybody. It makes me not want to trust anybody." She said, "I think we should stay separated." And Willie was like, "No, things will work out." He said, "I'll have a talk with my sister." But Kelsey just wanted to stay separated from, Willie for a while. And she also, of course, went to her brother Casey about it. And I forgot to throw in with Casey's life. He also is in a relationship himself, but he's also messing with drugs. He's struggling to get off of that. He's struggling to get clean himself. So he's also been trying to borrow money from Willie. But Willie will sometimes tell him, like, "Hey, man, I can't be giving you money, 'cause I already know what you're going with. I already know what you're doing with it. It ain't my business what you're doing with it, but I already know what you've been doing in your life, Casey. And I'm gonna just let you know, I got another baby on the way. Your sister is pregnant, with our second child." But going to Casey, and Casey had one day, he was drunk, and he ended up coming up where Willie was at. Willie was with some other friends of his. He ended up coming up, and with a like a 2x4. Willie was around some other friends of his at the gas station, and chatting it up, talking to them good, because him and Kelsey had split it up for a while, and he was disappointed about it. But he was also chatting it up with some friends of his at the gas station, and Casey had ran up with not a baseball bat, 2x4, and started swinging it at Willie. And Will was like, what the H is wrong with you, Casey, man? Stop swinging that at me. And Casey was like, no, you mess with my sister, I'ma knock your head off, you bastard. And he was like, swinging it off at Willie. Will like, you better calm down and put that down. But Casey kept swinging it. And one last time when Casey had swung it, Willie caught it, snatched it out of his hand, threw it somewhere, and ended up getting a hold of Casey and putting them in like a chokehold. Like holding them from, like when someone come behind you and do like that to calm them down. Like, hey man, you better calm down. Like, you're my friend, I care about you, and I don't want to hurt you. That's what Willie has said to calm Casey down. Like, get off of me, get off of me. But Casey was kind of, drunk. You hurt my sister. She told me everything. She was in tears. But Willie ended up sitting down with Casey, calming him down, also giving him a little cash, and letting him know that nothing happened. Like, he never laid hands. What Casey thought in his drunk mind, he thought that he had misheard what his sister had said. He thought Willie had put hands on Kelsey, because Kelsey came to him up in tears. All he thought, he seen the tears and thought like, oh, he hit my sister. He wasn't thinking that Kelsey was just upset because she overheard what Effie was saying about her, and her child was saying about her child. But Willie ended up explaining, and that settled things between him and Casey. And Willie also made sure to confront his sister. And he ended up going to his sister's house. His sister was cleaning up, spraying air freshener all over the place. Music was playing in the background. She was listening to some Monica music or something like that. And it was either Monica or Brandy. Them type of artists back in the late 90s. And it was a knock at the door. It was like a loud knock, like banging, like. And then I forgot her daggone name. Effie was like, hold on for a minute, hold on. As soon as she opened up the door, Willie came in, jacked at her up, and pushed her up against the wall. So why would you say that to her? Why would you say that? It's all your fault. It's all your fault that you messed things up between me and her. Why would you say that about my son? So like that. And Effie like, I don't know what you're talking about. Let go of me, Willie. Stop. But he went off on his sister. He was like, why would you say that about my son? Let alone your own nephew. That is my son. I know that's my son. The only person that Kelsey had babies by was me. I'm the father of both of those children. He went off on his sister. And Effie ended up coming down in tears, and she was like, she's trying to take you from me. We used to have a close relationship, me and you, brother and sister. But ever since she came into the family, you've been acting different. You don't want to sit by me. We don't hardly talk like that no more. It's always everything about Kelsey and the baby. Kelsey this, Kelsey that. You're always thinking about her. Sometimes I wish you and Keisha was together. And Willie was like, well, newsflash. Me and Keisha is just friends. I don't know what the heck is you saying to Keisha or mama or grandmama or anybody else, but I love Kelsey. I'm going to always stay with Kelsey. And if you got a problem with me being with Kelsey, then you ain't got to worry about me talking to you again. Because you saying all this about my son, I will stop talking to you completely. I will quit dealing with you, and it will only be me, Kelsey, and my son. And I'll be dealing with mama and the rest of them. So you better watch what you say about my son. That's what, Willie was telling Effie. He was like, and if you were my sister anyway, and if you really love me, like you claiming that you was, if you really love me, you wouldn't say all of that about my son. You would support my relationship. You would accept the person who I love. You will accept that person, in my life. You will accept my relationship with Kelsey. But no, you don't accept it. So that means that you don't love me either. You hate Kelsey. That means you hate me. Because I decided to love her and be in a relationship with her. And that really got through, Effie's mind. That really got through her mind, and that had her thinking. That let her know just how ignorant that DVL, that devil, had her thinking. And then she was like, well, I'm sorry. I'm just so sorry. I'm so sorry. Like, she was just crying. And Willie, right then and there, like, I don't even want to hear it. You just stay away from me. You keep your distance from me. And he left out her door. He didn't even close the door behind. He left the door wide open, leaving out her house. And, Effie, she just slid down against the wall and just cried to herself. She was hurt herself. She was embarrassed and hurt and felt ignorant for the things that she'd been saying about the little baby and Kelsey. After a while, when there was another, get together at Aretha's house, Kelsey ended up coming over, and she ended up bringing some more Kool-Aid. She made sure this time that the Kool-Aid had enough sugar in it. She had brought some Kool-Aid and hot dogs, chips, and stuff like that. It was like one of the little kids' birthday party at Aretha's house, and she ended up coming over, and she ended up coming across Effie. The two of them ended up accidentally bumping into each other. Kelsey was like, "Oh, excuse me, hey Effie, I didn't mean to bump into you." And Effie was like, "It's all right." And Kelsey, can I talk to you in the back privately? And Kelsey was like, "Yeah, sure. We could talk, Effie." She took her to the back, and she apologized 1,000 times to Kelsey. She generally felt bad for talking bad about Kelsey and to Kelsey's face and about her nephew. And she also did not want to lose that relationship, that bond with her brother. So she just let Kelsey She had let Kelsey know right off the bat that she was sorry. And Kelsey accepted her apology, like, "Oh, I love you, Effie." The two of them was close. And she was like, "You know what? Just like I love my brother, I could tell that you really love Willie. But you don't have to worry about anybody taking him from you. We are all family. We are all one. We are all people. We all come from God. We all bleed red at the end of the day. We all have flesh. We all make mistakes in life. We are all not perfect." That's what Kelsey had told Effie. And that made Effie smile, and then she was like, "I love you, Kelsey, my sister-in-law." And Kelsey ended up having a baby, and it was a baby girl who looked just like her brother. So they had a son and a daughter. And, Kelsey and Willie continued to live happily ever after. She definitely got real close inside the Barnes family. Everybody accepted her. Willie continued to love her, and even ended up proposing to her one day. Kelsey was happy. Effie was happy. Everybody in the family was happy. And Aretha was happy to be a grandmother. And Eunice, she ended up getting sick. The tragedy with this story is that Eunice, she ended up getting sick, and she ended up, meeting her demise, sadly. She ended up meeting her demise, and she was like in her late 70s, close to 80-something years old. And that's basically the end of this story called Elb and Ivy. The message behind this whole thing is that at the end of the day, we are all people. We may have a different skin tone, may look different from one another, but at the end, God made us all. We are all flesh and bone. We all make mistakes. We are all not perfect. And I hope you all have a blessed day. God bless you all. Thanks for the support. Thanks for coming by my channel. It's hot out here, but I like the summertime. I like all the seasons. Hope you all have a great day. Please stay safe during this 4th of July. God bless you all. Thanks for the support. Virtual hugs. God bless you all, and goodbye. God bless.